everyone, Miss Roberts here, ready to continue our book, The Mummies in the Morning. This book has been really interesting. I like the Egyptian tie-in, and now we're dealing with now we're working with the Ghost Queen, which I just find, I like the mystery of this one. It's very interesting. I'm excited. And last chapter we were working on the hieroglyphs, where we were trying to translate their meaning to help her find something so she can move on. And we are now starting chapter 7, The Scroll. Jack put the scepter and his notebook and pencil into his pack. The Ghost Queen seemed so kind and gentle. He wasn't afraid of her at all anymore. Jack and Annie followed her deeper into the pyramid. Finally, they came to some stairs. The stairs, said Jack and Annie together. The Ghost Queen floated up the stairs. Jack and Annie followed. The Ghost Queen floated right through the wooden door. Jack and Annie pushed on the door. It opened slowly. They stepped into a cold, drafty room. The Ghost Queen was nowhere in sight. Dim torchlight lit up the huge room. It had a very high ceiling. On one side was a pile of tables, chairs, and musical instruments. On the other side of the room was a small wooden boat. The boat, said Jack. What's it doing inside Queen Whoopi's pyramid? Asked Annie. Maybe it's supposed to carry her to the next life, said Jack. Jack and Annie went over to the boat. They looked inside it. The boat was filled with many things: gold plates, painted cups, jeweled goblets, woven baskets, jewelry with blue stones, and small wooden statues. Look, said Jack. He reached into the boat and lifted out a clay jug. The jug, said Annie. Jack looked inside the jug. Something's in here, he said. What is it? Asked Annie. Jack felt inside the jug. It feels like a big napkin, he said. The folded cloth, said Annie. Jack reached into the jug and pulled out the folded cloth. It was wrapped around an ancient-looking scroll. Jack slowly unrolled the scroll. It was covered with wonderful hieroglyphs. The Book of the Dead, whispered Annie. We found it! Oh, man! Jack traced his finger over the scroll. It felt like very old paper. Queen Whoopi, called Annie. We have it! We found the Book of the Dead! Silence! Queen Whoopi! Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. Let me correct. It's silence. They heard nothing. Queen Whoopi! A door at the other side of the chamber creaked open. Maybe she's in there, asked Annie. Jack's heart was pounding. Cold air was coming through the doorway. Come on, said Annie. Wait. No, said Annie. She waited thousands of years for her book. Don't make her wait any more. Jack put the ancient scroll into his backpack. Then he and Annie slowly started to cross the drafty room. They came to the open door. Annie went through first. Hurry, Jack, she said. Jack stepped into the other room. It was nearly bare, except for a long gold box. The box was open. It was covered on the floor. Queen Whoopi? Called Annie. Silence. We found it, said Annie. Your Book of the Dead. There was still no sign of the Ghost Queen. The gold box glowed. Jack could barely breathe. Let's leave the scroll on the floor and go, he said. No, I think we should leave it there, said Annie. She pointed to the gold box. No, said Jack. Don't be afraid, said Annie. Come on. Annie took Jack by the arm, then walked across the room to the glowing gold box. They stopped in front of the box and peered inside. Chapter 8, The Mummy. A real mummy, Jack thought. Bandages were still wrapped around the mummy's skull, but most of the bandages had fallen away from its face. It was Whoopi, Queen of the Nile. Whoopi's mummy wasn't beautiful. It had broken teeth, little wrinkled ears, and a squashed nose. Its flesh was withered. Its eyes were swollen sockets. The rotting bandages of the mummy's body were coming off. Jack could see bones. Oh, gross, said Annie. Let's go. No, said Jack. It's interesting. Forget it, said Annie. She started out of the room. Wait, Annie. Come on, Jack. Hurry, cried Annie. She was standing by the door. Jack pulled out the Egypt book and flipped to the picture of the mummy. He read aloud. Ancient Egyptians tried to protect the body so it would last forever. First, it was dried out with salt. Ugh, stop, said Annie. Listen, said Jack. He kept reading. Next, it was covered with oil. Then it was wrapped tightly with bandages. The brain was removed by... Yuck! Stop! cried Annie. Goodbye! She dashed out of the room. Annie, called Jack. We have to give her the Book of the Dead. But Annie was gone. Jack reached into his pack and he pulled out the scroll and the scepter. He put them next to the mummy's skull. Was it just his imagination, or did a deep sigh seem to shudder throughout the room? Did the mummy's face grow calmer? Jack held his breath as he backed out of the mummy room. He hurried through the boat room and headed down the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, Jack heaved his own sigh of relief. He looked down the hallway. It was empty. Hey, Annie, where are you? He said. No answer. Where in the world was Annie? Jack started down the hallway. Annie, he called. Had she run out of the pyramid? Was she already outside? Annie! Jack, help! Came a cry. The voice sounded far away. It was Annie. Where was she? Help, Jack! Annie! Jack started to run along the shadowy hallway. Help, Jack! Her cry seemed fainter. Jack stopped. He was running away from her voice. Annie, he called. He went back towards the burial chamber. Jack! Her voice was louder. Jack! Jack climbed the stairs. He went back into the boat room. He looked around the furniture, the musical instruments, and the boat. Then he saw it. There was another door. It was right next to the door he had just come through. The door was open. Jack dashed through it. He found himself at the top of some stairs. They were just like the stairs outside of the doorway. He went down the stairs and into a hallway. It was lit by torches on the wall. It was just like the other hallway. Annie? He called. Jack! Annie? Jack! Annie was running through the hallway towards him. She crashed into him. I was lost, she cried. I think this is one of those false passages built to fool tomb robbers, said Jack. A false passage, said Annie, panting. Yeah, it looks just like the other hallway, said Jack. We have to go back into the boat room and out the right door. Just then they heard a creaking noise. Jack and Annie turned around. They looked up the stairs. They watched in horror as the door slowly creaked shut. A deep sound rumbled in the distance, and all the torches went out. Ooh, it's getting spooky. I am excited to finish this book with you tomorrow. I'm also excited because tomorrow is the first day that I will be posting that I and Mrs. Becker and Mr. Mason and Mr. Vandergraff will be posting lessons on our class accounts and getting to interact with you in that way. So I'm very excited to be able to work with you again, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.